Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. Welcome to your favorite community call here in the Convention Center at 88 MPH. My name is Whipper, and I'm a crypto enthusiast and a community volunteer at 88 MPH. Alongside me, we have McFly and Steven, who are no strangers to the 88 MPH community or to the industry and definitely do not need an introduction. Today's call is going to be jam-packed with some serious alpha, updates, and more. So make sure to stay tuned all the way until the end. Before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to the 88 MPH team and congratulate them on the success of V3. As each day passes, the TVL continues to rise and the amount of feedback from the community has been overwhelmingly positive. Today we have the special pleasure of hosting Visor Finance. Before we start the call, I'd like to remind everyone here on stage to please keep their mics muted unless they're speaking. If you have any questions or comments during the call, please feel free to raise your hand so we can bring you up on stage. For the sake of getting more community engagement during these calls, we've changed the format to an open style discussion. So feel free to jump in with your questions at any time. Simply raise your hand to get our attention. As with tradition here at 80 MPH, we will be closing the call with a $100 raffle giveaway in the form of 1 MPH. I will have to check with our team to see if we're minting any POAPs this time around, but we will mention that towards the end of the call. On the agenda today, we will be discussing liquidity management on Uniswap V3, treasury management with Visor Finance. We'll be discussing news and updates from both 88 MPH and Visor Finance, followed by our raffle and potential minting of our POAP. With that, I'd like to open the call up with BP or XYK. If either one of you can start us off with just a brief introduction into who you are, how you got into this space, and let's talk about what is Visor Finance.
Okay, I guess I'll start. So Visor Finance started in January of this year, and it all started with Ampleforth creating something they call the Universal Vault, which allows tokens to be stored inside of an NFT. And so we took this vault and we made it so that it is not just for self-custody purposes. It has a layer above it that can route assets to and from other protocols. And so at that time, Uniswap V3 came out with the design schematics and allowed us to create a contract, a position manager contract around their core contracts so that we could be an active manager. And since then, we have created our protocol around V3 and listed, I think, 22 pairs right now. And we manage those actively 24/7 in order to stay in range, maximize fees for our LPs that come back from Uniswap V3 on the TVL. And our TVL is somewhere around 12 to 15 million right now. And so that's been great. And we've had a lot of projects approach us and want to use Visor as in an active management capacity for their treasuries or for having a liquidity mining program on top of the base position. And so yeah, we call that Visor Phantom, and that is this enterprise solution. And then we've been helping some projects get on Arbitrum to create pools for them and begin to manage the position.
Perfect. Thanks for that brief introduction. We're definitely going to dive very deep into the project. But what about yourself, XYK and BP? Maybe you guys can just introduce yourselves and let us know how you got into the crypto industry.
Well, I have been, I mean, everybody, I guess, if you're early enough, started out with Bitcoin. So I started out understanding Bitcoin, but it was sort of limited in its ability, so it got boring quickly. And that was probably 2011. And then when Ethereum came along, I was able to participate in the crowd sale and have been within the ecosystem ever since then. And previously, I was at MakerDAO. CD launch and then wanted to start a project. So that's the history from then into now.
And just to give a little bit of background myself, like I got into crypto a lot later than XYK got into it. I came from more traditional finance and law. I went to law school, and then after that, I was an investment banker for a good period of time. And then about like 6 to 9 months ago, I really got heavily involved in crypto. Just started investing here and there. And once I found out about Visor and their product, I was really hooked, and I decided to join the community, and I was the community manager on the Discord, and now I do a lot of their communications and business development. So yeah, it's been a great ride.
XYK coming in from 2011. Always nice to have an OG in the space with us. I'm sure that we're going to learn a lot from you on this call. I want to pass this over quickly to McFly. I see a lot of people in the audience joining us from Visor here. McFly, could you just give them a quick introduction into 88 MPH? I'm sure they all want to get to know our protocol a little bit better as well.
Yep, sure. For who's not aware of what we are doing, we are offering protocol, offering fixed yield rate on your crypto. So currently, we just launched 1 week ago our V3. So we just opened some assets, DAI, stablecoin stuff like USDC, DAI, USDT, some wrapped version of Bitcoin, and Link and Uniswap. And next week we will open more assets to offer fixed yield rate. And that's the main product. So it's what we do, and we have a secondary product that allow you to speculate on future yield on the underlying protocol we are using. And the name of this product is a yield token. So yeah, main product is a fixed yield rate on your deposit, and the second one is the yield token.
Perfect. Thanks for that, McFly. We'll definitely touch base and talk a little bit more about V3 and some of the news and updates later on in the segment of the call. Okay, so I'd like to get started with the first segment, and that's going to be focused around liquidity management on Uniswap V3. So, as many people are aware, Uniswap V3 has been around for a while, and most users are aware of it, but many of them don't actually understand how to utilize V3 properly. Could you please start us off with your version of how V3 is different, and can you please explain what non-fungible liquidity is, BP or XYK if you want to take that?
Sure. So the main difference between Uniswap V2 and Uniswap V3 was the changing of the ability to create ranges around a liquidity position. So in V2, there was no range. You would just deposit liquidity, the ratio at the time of the pool. And now you're able to select a range. So if you're going to provide liquidity in the ETH slash USDT pair, you may want to provide liquidity from $2,000 to $4,000, and you can select that range. Now, because everybody can select a different ranges, that has to be constructed as a unique position, and that's why Uniswap decided to choose an NFT to portray the position, because there's an infinite number of different ranges that you can choose. So when you go to create a liquidity position with your ranges selected, you are minting an NFT and you're depositing the assets at the selected ratio. Now, that's great, but the issue there is that it's very cost prohibitive to be an LP compared to V2, because it costs a lot to mint an NFT. And the other issue is that when you when the liquidity, or when the price goes out of your liquidity range, you have no ability to edit NFT. You have to discard it, and the position and withdraw your assets out of the position, and then that NFT will display closed, and then you have to mint a new one with new ranges. So if you want to maximize the fees that you're getting for being an LP, you would have to do this all day long, and so it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of money to be an active manager, and so that is why we created the core contracts to be able to do this on LP's behalf.
I would also add, from the protocol perspective, you wouldn't need as much liquidity as you would need on, let's say, SushiSwap or UniV2 due to the concentrated liquidity nature of it. And Hayden from Uniswap posted out this tweet where like a useful heuristic is if you provide liquidity like 20% around the current price tick, like 20% above and 20% below, it had a 10x capital efficiency over a constant product AMM model such as UniV2 or SushiSwap. So what that means in terms of, let's say, liquidity mining is you wouldn't have to dilute your token or emit as many let's say MPH tokens to get the requisite amount of liquidity that you need.
Yeah, that's a great point. And XYK, you sort of brought something up that I wanted to ask you about. So you mentioned what happens if the price sort of moves outside of your range. Maybe you can explain a little deeper what actually happens behind the scenes when that happens. Like, are you essentially now no longer providing liquidity? Or even worse, does your position actually change? Do you end up buying or selling that position, effectively going long or short, whatever it was that you were providing as liquidity?
Yeah, totally. So that's another issue is you're not only just not providing liquidity, you have now slid entirely into one asset. So let's say that you're providing liquidity in that range 2,000 to 4,000 for ETH USDT, and ETH goes to 4,100. You're now entirely in USDT, and no matter how high ETH goes, you're always going to be entirely in USDT, and so that is good if you want to create a limit. If you want to use this liquidity position as a limit position, meaning you wanted to sell when the price goes above a certain point, but typically people are not using Uniswap V3 for limit positions. They're using it to provide liquidity, and so just to recap, that is this just like BP explained that this new AMM style increases capital efficiency. It also compounds the effects of impermanent loss.
Perfect. And so then this sort of leads me into the next question, which I want to talk about, which is, I find it interesting, doing some research between V2 and V3. I understand that there are some pretty serious differences when it comes to impermanent losses. Maybe you could get us a little bit deeper into that subject and how LP providers are affected and what people can expect in terms of impermanent loss and how they can prepare for it.
So impermanent loss, defined most simply, I guess, is or most extremely in Uniswap V3's case, is that when it does go outside of range, you have lost any potential ability to get fees for providing liquidity, but you've also lost any asset value appreciation because you're on one side and you're not providing liquidity anymore.
Right. BP, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, so like for, let's say, ETH USDT, as ETH goes to the upside, you're all in USDT. So as the price goes further up, you don't have any of the upside gains of ETH. And when ETH falls, you're selling for USDT. So you're selling for ETH. So at the bottom end of the range, you're completely exposed to the downside of ETH if the price goes down. And that's sort of the trade-offs that you make for having that concentrated liquidity. You have a higher fee multiplier when you're in range, but you have potential for max exposure to the downside or cap exposure to the upside if there is no rebalance.
So now that we have a better understanding of how V3 works, maybe we could talk a little bit about the Visor vaults. Maybe you can walk us through like a typical example of like how a user would go about depositing liquidity into Uniswap V3 using Visor Finance.
So the key difference between providing liquidity yourself and getting this this NFT that represents two ranges, that is without Visor. But then with Visor, you are entering into a position that is not as constricted as a LP or an LP NFT. And that is to say that we have built these periphery contracts around Uniswap V3 core contracts that allow us to provide liquidity outside of a NFT. And so this makes it much more dynamic. Now, we still have to choose the price range, and we still have to take the fees that are accrued and redeposit them into the position like you have to do if you had this NFT. But it makes it so that it's not as expensive to change ranges. And we are also, in effect, changing ranges rather than having to discard an NFT and mint a new one. This also makes it so that we can deploy strategies on top of a position. And that is this layer of strategy layer is what we call the supervisor. And there's a lot that this supervisor can do and call a function call on the position manager contract that we've created.
And when a user deposited into the vault, like what token do they receive back? Is it like an LP token? Like how do they? Yeah, maybe you can just talk about. Yes.
So when one of our users or any user that wants to join our managed position, what they're doing is they're choosing either a single asset, which would be one side of the pair, or they would be choosing both assets to deposit. And so when you are depositing either one of these, you're actually receiving a receipt token that is proportional to the value of your deposit versus the value of the entire position. And so you're basically getting a percentage of the position of the managed position. And so when you go to then withdraw it, you are withdrawing your portion of the position, including all of the fees that have been collected by the position. But the main difference between the deposit process and the withdrawal is the fact that when you withdraw from the position, you are receiving the current ratio of the position. So you're getting both assets. Even though you can deposit single-sided deposit, when you withdraw, you're getting the ratio of the position.
So when you decide to put in a single asset, it's just more of a feature out of convenience, really, because essentially that single-sided asset is getting divided into the two-sided AMM, similar to, I guess, almost like a balancer or something, right? It's more like a convenience feature.
So yes, it's definitely convenient. It's more than convenience though, because there's no swap that's going on. So let's say that we mandated a ratio, and you only had ETH. You wouldn't want to swap into half into USDT because you're going to incur that swap fee. And we don't swap as well. What we do is we take the single asset, we put it into a limit position that is very narrow and very close to the base position, so that in the next interval, and that could be a minute or hour, when that limit position is filled to the ratio of the base position, that is then entered all into the base position. So convenience and also cost saving mechanism.
XYK, just completely unrelated. We're getting some comments in the chat that people are having a hard time hearing you. I agree. It's coming in a little bit in and out. I'm wondering if you could just do like a quick mic check on yourself just to see if you can make any
better?
Oh, yeah, that's coming in much better.
Okay, great. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. So I guess further to your point, what you were saying is that a user that decides to come in with a single-sided asset is not only saving gas, but they're essentially saving gas and that extra trade that they have to go to that other asset. So that's convenience and cost savings as well, right there.
Right, which would be a transaction cost as well as the swap fee that you're incurring. Because remember, the limit order is you're not paying a fee, even if it gets filled.
Right, for sure. Also, just a reminder to those that are in the audience, we're changing the format a little bit. We'd like to make this an open style discussion. Anyone who wants to jump in, has a question, or would like to make a comment, feel free to raise your hand so we can get you up on stage. We're going to continue with our call, getting to know Visor Finance a little bit deeper. So you mentioned, so I'm assuming that you guys have like these automatic, position format, like you guys are formatting the positions automatically. Like we were talking about like a user that's providing liquidity to V3 on their own would constantly have to be governing their positions, where I'm assuming that you guys have these strategies that you're putting out, that everything's being done automatically behind the scenes on the back end, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, so we have strategies, and these strategies, so the first one that we came out with was a Bollinger Band strategy, which is just setting a moving average based upon an interval. So it could be daily moving average, it could be a 30-minute moving average, and then you're setting a standard deviation up so that you're capturing this consistent price. And so that was the first one that we came out with. There's also a more simpler one, which is just maintaining a percentage above and below the current price. And so let's say 20% above and below. And any time that the price dips into a threshold of, let's say, 50%, then you are we would rebalance that. Now, one consideration with the strategies that are deployed right now on mainnet is that every rebalance does cost transaction fee, and so the intervals cannot be minute per minute. We have to be conscious of the gas cost that we're paying, because we're managing 20 pairs, and that adds up, and that's taken directly from our treasury. But the good news is that on Arbitrum, the intervals can go a lot. It can be a lot more frequent, and so that enables us to have much more dynamic strategies that are not that don't have to prioritize cost of the transaction.
Cool, awesome. So generating high yields within AMMs can be very lucrative. Could you explain how fees are generated and distributed for Visor token holders?
Yes. So upon every rebalance, the accrued fees that are set outside of the position, because as a position receives fees from all of the trades that are trading with your liquidity into and out of, those fees are not going back into the main position, and that was a feature of V2. The fees would go directly back into the main position, but in V3 the fees are accrued outside of the position. So over time, actually every single block, as long as there's a trade, there are these fees being accrued, and so only when we do a rebalance or a collect call do those fees get put back into the main position. At the time that they're put back into the main position, Visor takes 10%. And that doesn't go to our treasury, that goes directly to stakers of the Visor token.
Cool. So we touched about this earlier when we were talking about impermanent loss. I think, I'm not sure if this is launched yet, but I think I remember reading something about Visor working towards like an impermanent loss protection. Maybe you could talk a little bit about this and how you guys achieve it. I know that, like, for example, Bancor has been able to achieve this with their specific AMMs, but maybe you could talk about your strategy.
Sure. There are a couple of ways of tackling impermanent loss mitigation. And one of them is through a hedging strategy. So you take a position that is external to Uniswap v3, and in effect, you're shorting so that if you're incurring impermanent loss, you're gaining in the short position. So you're trying to maintain a position that that doesn't have that loss, and so we have begun, the conversations and integrations with, in order to do this. Perpetual protocol is one that we're working with, and so that the strategy is not deployed yet, but that's a very clear path towards mitigating impermanent loss. And there's some other strategies like making the rebalancing more frequent so that you're always maintaining a consistent ratio of assets. That's a way to do. That's a way to configure impermanent loss mitigation within Uniswap v3 itself, and that is something we're looking forward to deploying on Hypertrump.
Yeah, and I guess I would add on to that, like currently, for some of the, like what we've been noticing is for the more non-correlated pairs, you're of course going to have more price divergence, and price divergence will lead to potentially more impermanent losses. So for more of the uncorrelated pairs like USDC, ETH, or ETH and any of the stable coins, we'll set a wider range for those. But for more correlated pairs like ETH True or ETH, let's say ETH GTC, we can set a tighter range because the prices are more or less correlated. So that tends to mitigate the effects of impermanent loss.
Definitely.
Well,
I'm curious. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I have a question for you guys. Are there any analytics that we can view to compare the success of some of your strategies with just putting it in Uniswap v3 liquidity and letting it ride? How can I view how well you've outperformed?
So the comparison, and we've active charts, that show this. We also have Delphi research that came out and compared us to other managers and the different metrics you can compare. So I'll go over those metrics. And if we're looking at the USDT ETH pair, you can look at what from the time of the pair creation or pair management, you have whether holding ETH and the value of that, you have holding USDT and the value of that, and then you have having USDT ETH position in V2, and then you have our managed position. So you're comparing 4 different metrics in order to see what performs the best. So what you don't have in there is another V3 position, unless it's another manager, because you wouldn't know what you would have to set that V3 position between ranges. Now, in the 4 different metrics that were compared when Delphi published the research, our managed position outperformed all of those.
So XYK, if I understand you correctly, you're saying that those metrics were really comparing almost like V3 to V2, right?
As well as holding each one of the base assets of the. So holding ETH and holding
Right.
USDT.
Right.
As well as another manager. Yeah. So there were actually 5 metrics there.
Awesome. I'm curious, in your opinion, how has like V3 performance compared to V2 in terms of fee generation? Like, where are LP providers better off right now?
So they're definitely better off in V3, and I think the reason for that is that it's difficult to be it's difficult to provide liquidity to Uniswap V3, which means that there's going to be consistently less TVL in a pair, but there's going to be more volume, and there's more volume because, of course, the Uniswap UI pushes V3 to be used, um, and there's also less slippage, and so it is less. You're getting a better rate on V3 than V2 because of the less slippage, and so there's more volume on V3, but there's less TVL, which means the LPs are going to perform very well because they're the TVL, and so that's what we've seen consistently, and that's only going to, I think, the volume is only going to improve on V3, and I think the TVL rate is going to stay very similar that we've seen over the past 3 to 4 months.
So what are your L2 plans? I know you talked about Arbitrum earlier. Do you guys have a preference between Optimism or Arbitrum? Where are you guys in your roadmap with regards to deployment on either one of those, or are you working with a side chain?
So we are deploying on Arbitrum and Optimism, and we have deployed core contracts completely on Arbitrum. On Optimism, we're in the whitelisting process. But to answer your other question, we are going wherever the volume is, and I mean we will exist on both, but that is to say, I guess the fees are going where the volume is, and so Arbitrum has less barrier to entry at the moment, and so there's a higher TVL on Arbitrum, and there's more volume on Uniswap V3 on Arbitrum. That's difficult to tell now, I guess, because there's something that's been down for 3 days, which is where we get
XYK, if you can fix your mic again like you did earlier, whatever you did the last time.
Okay. Any better now?
You're going in and out a little bit.
Let me switch mics.
Thank you. Maybe while we're waiting for him to switch mics, I'll just remind the audience that feel free to jump in if you have any questions or comments and you'd like to contribute to the conversation. Simply raise your hand so we can bring you up on stage. BP, maybe I can direct this next question to you while we're waiting for XYK. What would you say sort of sets Visor apart from some of its competitors? People doing the same thing that you guys are trying to achieve?
Sure. I guess for one thing that XYK mentioned earlier, we use an NFT vault, which was pioneered by Ampleforth. So when you deposit your assets within your NFT vault, they're just custodied by the user, and they permission our position manager to manage those funds on Uniswap V3. And there's only a certain number of functions that position manager can do. There is no withdraw function to a non-whitelisted address. They can only rebalance, set limit orders, and there's only a set number of functions that position manager can perform. And what Charm and a lot of these other protocols are doing is that they are setting more of it's a little bit more inflexible in that they have a certain passive rebalancing strategy where if the position goes X% this way, then it'll automatically rebalance, and they're sort of cemented within that strategy. If they want to create a new strategy, then they'd have to create another vault, have all their users withdraw their funds, and then redeposit their funds into another vault that has a different strategy. Whereas our vaults are a little bit more flexible. The strategies, let's say if the strategy changes or a new strategy that is more profitable is discovered, then we can apply that strategy to that vault. So I think the difference is a lot in the flexibility in terms of our strategy, and we have a research arm called Gamma Strategies where they're researching just the top of the line strategies for providing liquidity and determining price based on volatility. And so I would say those are the main differences. And Saganaki, who just joined, he is leading the charge at Gamma Strategies and determining, the best ways to provide liquidity.
And I'm back now.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for hosting us.
Yeah, perfect. XYK, you want to give your mic a try there? See if it's improved?
Any better now?
Oh, night and day. Much better. Thank you for that. Sorry to do that in the middle of the call, but you're just sharing a lot of valuable information. I just want to make sure that everyone is hearing you clear.
Thanks.
Yeah,
so
no
I was
worries.
saying should I go back to RL2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So we are deployed on Arbitrum. We are within the whitelisting process of Optimism, and what's very good is that the first protocol that was deployed on both of these is Uniswap v3, and so there is this volume that we're seeing daily on both of the deployments. And so, but we are really prioritizing the one that has the most volume because that's where the fees are going to be generated. And it's difficult for us to take our 22 pairs that we have managed right now on mainnet and bring them over to L2 because some of those tokens are not even on Optimism or Arbitrum in a meaningful way. And so we're thinking about listing pairs that are providing the highest returns on each one of these protocols.
Before you got cut out, I wasn't sure if I heard you say that Uniswap on Arbitrum has passed Optimism's volume. Is that right? Because I know that for a little bit of a time there, Uniswap on Optimism was posting some pretty decent numbers for what I thought.
Well, so last week, I think the lowest was 3 million in volume for a 24-hour period on both of those. But then we had seen Arbitrum surpass Optimism. And unfortunately, their subgraph has been down for the past 3 or 4 days. So it's hard to get a read. But there was a point where they did surpass the volume on Optimism.
Cool. So since Visor's launched, we've seen some pretty impressive TVL metrics. As of now, I think you mentioned at the beginning of the call, but could you just repeat how much TVL is currently locked or under management, rather?
Right. So it's somewhere between, I think, 12 and 13 at the moment. It's really dependent upon price. But we did, we're on a consistent rate. And so somewhere between 12 and 13 million at this point. Now, we are focusing most of our development efforts on L2 deployments right now. And so we're not listing as many pairs as we frequently did. And so we have these 22 main pairs at the moment, and we also have caps on each one of these pairs. So we are definitely going to grow in TVL. It's just a matter of deploying on L2 and then rapidly listing new pairs. And our internal goal is to manage, and this is on a long-term goal, but manage 500 to 1,000 pairs. And of course, that is only we only have the ability to do that cost-wise on L2.
Right. So security within DeFi is always top priority for DeFi users. Maybe you can comment on how many audits you guys have had and who's performed those audits. I mean, the product sounds absolutely amazing, and I think that you guys are doing a fabulous job.
Thank you. So we did. We went with a service provider that could look at our contracts and we could get an early slot. So we've had one audit, and that was conducted by CertIC, and that report is public. We also have that entire write-up and report on our Medium page. But it is CertIC, and that the one that's public. We are also in slots for others, and these are tier 1 auditors. And we're also going to go forward with the Immunify sort of a public audit with them, and that'll be happening in the next 2 weeks.
Good choice. We have a Immunify bounties as well.
Awesome. Yeah, they're great. And we also did C4, and I think you guys did C4 as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, let's switch gears here and get into the next segment of the call, which focuses more on treasury management with Visor. So one of the most interesting things that I found with regards to treasury management, I think that you guys mentioned it was called Phantom. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right or explaining it, but basically, so can you explain how projects can make otherwise unproductive assets in their treasury more productive and like achieve yield or return with the treasury management options through Visor? Visor. I don't know if I said Visor a couple times. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Some people are yeah, it's all right. So the one of the main benefits for our position manager contract that is definitely a benefit over just using Uniswap v3 main NFT position is that we allow for the single-sided deposit, and that's great for community members and token holders because they just want to earn yield on their main asset, and they can deposit that with us, and they can also be providing liquidity for their for the project that they like. So it's really a win-win, and that's kind of true as well with the DeFi project itself, because they have enormous treasury of their base asset. They want to be providing liquidity for their own token, and at the same time, they want to be getting this sustainable yield. And so we didn't anticipate there was going to be this much inbound of DeFi projects wanting to use Visor for treasury management, but we got a lot of inbound, and then we created this special program for DeFi projects to utilize a private hypervisor that there's this co-management going on. There's transparency in the position and the limits, the price ranges, when the fees are entered back into the position, all of that. Same tokenomics for our token holders, 10%, but there's a little bit more say on the treasury side of a DeFi project.
Can you touch a little bit on how you're achieving those single-sided deposits? Is it as simple as you're pooling the tokens together, or is there something a bit more technical there?
Well, it's actually both. And so there is an ability right now for the supervisor to discretionarily enter assets into the position. So if assets are on both sides, and maybe and we want to wait for ETH to appear, if there's just been a large deposit on the other side of the pair, then we can totally do that and make it so that once a ratio appears, then that gets entered into the main position, or a single-sided deposit can be immediately entered into a limit position, and when filled at the same ratio of the base position, then gets entered. So and that's why we designed the supervisor to be so dynamic, because there's a lot of considerations around entering, managing, and withdrawing the position.
It just sounds like such an awesome feature that I feel like so many DeFi projects could take advantage of. What would you say, like the broader DeFi space, like how are they viewing this so far? Like this feature that you guys have put out, like has it been very welcomed? I mean, like for me, like it just sounds like a no-brainer, but like I'm just wondering, like so far, like how's the response been?
Right. There was so we were included in the 6th governance proposal for Uniswap, and so we were there as an ability for the end grant recipient to get what we and them termed sustainable grant by taking Uni, putting it into one of our managed positions, and then getting the grant funds from the performance of that. and that was a great idea. And so, but there was some confusion in the community around why would you need $25 million worth of uni to create this sustainable grant program where the returns are obviously much lower. So why would you need 25 million to do this? And that was what the governance process and the community got sort of hung up on. But everybody else realized that was a great idea. It just should be done with lower amounts of money. But yeah, this is something that a lot of the blue chip projects are looking at because they have such enormous treasuries, and it is almost irresponsible to be selling off large amounts of your native token to fund grants, whereas there's another alternative which is getting yield on those main assets. So I think if done with better messaging and more of a thorough view of how the yields are going to be returned, and maybe even a committee that looks at the performance and if it's not performing well, then can revoke the funds. I think that it's going to be a mass. It's good. What we and sustainable grants like this are going to play a massive role in the future of DeFi.
This sort of leads me to my next question. So for the sake of 88 MPH users, could you walk us through like a typical example of like how we could get better yield on our current treasury and like how that would look like, and what sort of fees is Visor taking from this initiative of like project treasury management?
Well, we would simply create a private hypervisor that is the pair that's desired with the fee tier that's desired, and then you would deposit that single asset, or you could provide both if your treasury has ETH, and you wanted to allocate some towards that, and we would create this hypervisor that then has a supervisor that you guys could access, and that's what would be the co-management of this position. And we would also build performance metrics and a public chart around the performance of this, so that you and your community could see. And then upon every rebalance, Visor would get 10% of those fees, but 90% would go towards any grants or use that you would like. You could also enter it back into the position, but that is that's the sequence here.
I guess I would also add it's very low risk tolerance for the protocols as well, because when we create this private hypervisor, you can deposit as much or as little as you want. There was another protocol that expressed interest in testing out the hypervisor first with a smaller amount, and if you so desired, you can just input more and more into it depending on your level of risk tolerance.
I think I go for everyone here that I liked what you talked about with onboarding protocols and utilizing their treasuries better. That's actually a big focus of what we had in mind with V3. And I think I'd speak for all of us here that the future of yield generation for token protocols, I think, has a very long-term success. And I just like that you touch on that, two different forms of yield trying to do a relatively similar thing in terms of treasuries.
And one other benefit that I think it's obvious, but it maybe hasn't been mentioned, is that it also supports the liquidity of the MPH token itself, which benefits everyone who wants to get in or get out or whatever reason. So I think it's a two-pronged benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was saying earlier, it seems like a no-brainer. So yeah, I'm glad to see that this is something that you guys are offering, and I really hope that people take advantage because, yeah, it seems like a win-win situation. I'd like to get into the next segment, which is just pretty much based around news and updates. So we've been learning so much about you guys, and we appreciate you coming on our call and educating us on the different features of the protocol. What are some major milestones that Visor Finance has surpassed that maybe is worthwhile mentioning?
So the main metrics that we look at are the TVL and the amount of pairs that we manage, and then the performance. So to date, we have returned 1.8 million in fees for our LPs. And TVL, a goal there was to surpass 10 million. Our next goal, internal goal that we hope to hit by the end of this year, especially with L2, is 100 million TVL, and definitely surpassing 20 pairs managed was also a great internal milestone. But we want to, expand that to 100 short-term, long-term 500 to 1,000.
That sounds awesome, guys. I'm sure you guys are going to hit those goals. What's on the roadmap? Anything that you guys want to share? Anything exciting coming down the pipeline that you want to share with some of the people that are listening on the call today?
Yeah, I mean, liquidity mining is a big one. That's how we see, or that's our thesis on the whole DeFi summer last year, and all sort of created by this discovery of the fungibility of Uniswap's V2 LP tokens, and it really jumpstarts a lot of new projects. And so we want to have a central role in the next wave of liquidity mining, and that's why we've made it a priority to add an additional layer to each one of our managed positions, and that is the LPs that are in our positions are able to receive rewards by not having to do another transaction. They will gaslessly subscribe to the liquidity mining program, and then they'll receive the rewards just by being an LP in the position. And the project knows that the liquidity is always within range because we are managing that. But I think that we're so that is, we definitely want to be a central part of the liquidity mining, and we think that we have a great chance at doing that. Just looking at the other contracts and sort of how difficult that is.
And I would say in terms of timeline, those contracts are expected like sometime end of this week or beginning of next week, and we'll be able to integrate our treasury management platform and liquidity mining platform probably the week after that. So end of September, beginning of October is when we'll probably be able to fully go live with the treasury management platform and the liquidity mining platform, and we will have a video demonstration of how that all works and be able to demonstrate that.
That's awesome, guys. So it sounds like there's some exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. I want to hand the mic. Oh, sorry, XYK. Did you want to add to that?
Oh no, just want to say yeah, exactly.
Just want to hand the mic over to McFly. Maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the things that are happening around V3 and some news and updates that users can expect around V3.
Yep. I just wanted to say thank you for being on this call with Visor team. It was really a great call, and we learned a lot with what we can do in terms of liquidity asset management with
McFly, you're sorry to interrupt you, bud. Your mic. It seems like today we're having mic issues, folks. McFly,
let me switch.
Yeah, much better. I just want to make sure that everyone hears you coming in correctly, especially because this is important information. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but if you want to go ahead now,
Yep.
Start from the...
No problem. Is it better right now?
Much better.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I was just thanking our guest today for coming by and discussing all these details regarding Visor, and we will definitely come back to you guys to discuss how we can collaborate together because it's really an interesting and important topic for us. Or we can build our own liquidity as a protocol, or we can do a better asset management with a governance treasury. So yeah, we will continue this discussion probably in a private chat, but we are definitely interested about what you are offering, especially with Uniswap V3. It's not an easy task to do that when you are a protocol. So if there is like a easy to use solution, it's perfect for us. And go ahead, Weaver. Or BB, maybe.
Well, yeah, no, that's great.
Thanks for
It's
having
definitely
us.
been a pleasure so far having our guests come on with us. McFly, aside from that, was there anything that you wanted to add around anything related to news or updates around V3, or should we open up for Q&A?
Probably let's do the Q&A for our guests, and I will go to the V3, what happened this week, and what will happen next week. After?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. That sounds like a plan.
Sorry to be interrupt, but we actually have a call at 2:30. Well, I mean, XYK, you're free to stay on. I could jump on the next call and
Okay.
you could join whenever you're ready. Okay.
Thank you so much, BP, for coming on. We really appreciate it. We learned so much from you guys, and we wish you a lot of success with the project going forward.
Thank you so much. It was a
Likewise.
pleasure. Bye-bye.
I want to give the audience an opportunity to jump in this awesome conversation that we've been having so far. So now's your chance. If you guys have any questions or comments about anything related to what we've been discussing, now would be a great time to pop in. So I'm just going to pause here for a real quick second here and scan the audience and see if anyone's raising their hand. While I'm doing that, since we have an OG like yourself, XYK, who's been around for quite some time, I'm curious on your take while I'm waiting to see if anyone's going to ask any questions. But I'm curious, there's been a lot of talk about L2s and Ethereum L1 killers and stuff like that. How do you see this space playing out? Do you think that the likes of like Solana and Avalanche really have a chance at like quote unquote being ETH killer, or like do you think that L2s on Ethereum are just going to blow everything else away?
So to respond to the Solana, so I've seen a lot of these supposed ETH killers come out, and the issue is that there are no real projects on them. But we joined DeFi Alliance in cohort 5, and we're going through all these introductions, and more than half of the projects in this accelerator are Solana projects. So I see that there is a lot of development going on that's real on Solana, and so that makes it's good that it's not this zombie chain, but it's also I like to see development on Ethereum, and so that was the one of the big indicators for me that Solana was more real than, let's say, Cardano or EOS. But then I think also that it's great that L2 is now out and live and functioning. But I think that it would have been an easier choice if it was only Optimism that captured the users as they flow from ETH mainnet to L2. And so now there's this decision that has to be made. Are you going to bridge to Arbitrum? Are you going to bridge to Optimism? And I think that a lot of users are waiting to see which one is going to take off. So there's more of a friction, a path with friction in bridging assets. And so that's sort of disappointing. But of course, that's how the market works. There's multiple options for everything. And so I think that as there are new protocols that allow for that time to decrease from bridging assets and using ETH as a settlement layer, I think that it will speed up that transfer. I also think that having liquidity mining programs on L2 and not on mainnet as the protocols decide to do that, and other protocols like Curve, launching pools on Arbitrum and not mainnet, that's obviously going to incentivize a lot of users to go to L2 and not stay on ETH mainnet.
Okay, I scanned the audience. It doesn't look like we have any questions. We only have a couple more minutes before we pass over the mic to McFly to talk about updates. So I think I'll just ask one more question.
Okay.
Do you think once L2s are pretty much running at optimal speed and fees are, somewhat normal, do you think at that point that sort of almost kills the case for a lot of these Ethereum killers?
Yeah, I do, because you can see that most of the projects, maybe all of them, that are on these ETH killers are just copies of Ethereum and Ethereum projects. And so the originality stays on Ethereum, then it goes to L2. Then, the reason for the copied project to be used was because of low gas fees. Now you have originality on Ethereum L2, and you have low fees on L2, and so it stays there. That's my prediction. It's my hope. I've been in ETH since the very beginning, so I'm a little bit biased, but I'm very excited for L2 to be live and working, and I think it's going to be a great path forward, and really we're just going to continue to have projects launch on ETH and not others.
Great.
Yeah, well said.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go for it.
All right, so you said there weren't any questions. I did find a couple of them in the chat. I'm just going to quickly read them off, and if anyone wants to touch on those. A few members have asked about XDAI, whether that's for 88 or Visor. I've seen both commented. You don't have to touch on that, but another question was asking if Visor does vaults. And what was another one? They said, how many transactions do the vaults make per day, saving us money? That was a few of the questions that were asked, if anyone wants to hit any of those.
Okay, so XDAI, I mean, we're not pursuing that at the moment. It's those core L2s that we're hitting. And the vaults, I don't exactly know what that means. I mean, the terminology of our vault is the NFT vault, and then we have the position manager contract. So our main goal is to service Uniswap v3, but then we do have some other goals in terms of integrating with other protocols. And that could be a stable pool that that deposits and withdraws on the various lending protocols in order to optimize rates. And there's a few other case studies for active management within DeFi, but right now we're just focused on Uniswap v3.
So by vaults, and this is probably my own bias because I use Maker vaults, I would assume, and I also would have this question on, are you pursuing any borrowing and lending on these positions, using them as collateral, using them as some other form of yield outside what you're currently doing?
I mean, it's a possibility that could happen, but I don't know of any protocol that would allow us to integrate there. I think also because our LP receipt tokens are unique, they would have to be there would have to be a market for borrowing those, and then the question is, what would you want to borrow assets that you can use? So borrowing an LP token that wouldn't give you any use, would undermine the value of that. Now, if you built a collateralized system with that, then that would work. But we haven't seen a protocol that we've been able to figure this out with. But when that comes along, absolutely, we want to be as integral within DeFi as possible.
I have to jump off on PH community, but thank you for the time, and we hope to talk to you more soon.
Thank you for that. It looks like we have a member in the audience looking to ask a question.
Hi. So I had just like a small question. So I went through the Medium page for Visor, I guess it's called Visor Finance. So they have something called time locking Uniswap LP NFT. Can you touch more on that? Is it something like 88 MPH fixed interest rate bonds?
No, that's actually a use case that is possible because our vaults accept ERC20 and NFTs, with the addition of being able to have a time lock on that deposit. But that use case was entirely created for a liquidity locker, so that when a DeFi project comes out and they are depositing liquidity onto Uniswap V3, that they could, deposit that LP NFT if they wanted to, and there wasn't a reason for active management, which I think that there is. It's sort of it was sort of a novelty, for us to build, but there is that ability to time lock an NFT for the purpose of locking liquidity.
Awesome. And also one more thing. When you say you're wrapping, there's also this thing that's written here. You guys wrap the Uniswap version 3 LP NFTs. What do you mean by that?
So that was also another use case, and I think you're reading a very early article, but that was that would allow for the consistent consistent depositing of the accrued fees into an LP NFT. And so these use cases are wrappers around the Uniswap LP NFT, which is not so much needed anymore because we have contracts that are the position itself.
Great. XYK, before I pass over the mic to McFly, we just want to thank you for coming on. Maybe you can just drop in the general chat or just mention here, like, how can we learn more about the project going forward? Maybe you want to drop your Twitter handle, you want to drop your Discord invite or something. Maybe you can put some stuff in the general chat so that we can follow your success as you guys continue to grow.
Okay, will do. And thank you guys so much for having us on and being so thorough about the questions and just the interest in our protocol.
100%. You're more than welcome to stick around with us while we run through the invites. And also, we will be running a raffle towards the end of the call. If you want to participate, we'd love to have you. So don't feel like you need to rush, but if you have another call or whatever, like, just do whatever's good. But
Sure.
no rush to leave.
All right. Thanks so much.
McFly, I'll pass it over to you. If you want to focus on some of the stuff around V3, that'd be great.
Yep. So regarding the news, we just deployed new features with V3 related to NFT custom metadata. I will share with you an example of what's possible right now with that new features. I will share something I minted yesterday in the chat. So you will see that right now we support MP4 video. Just a reminder that these features are just experiment. We are not focusing full time on that. It's just having fun. But the example you have on OpenSea, testnet OpenSea, so it's the Rinkeby testnet. So connect to that, and you will see you will be able to interact with that NFT. And this is representing a deposit, USDC deposit on 88 MPH on the compound pool, earning currently some fixed yield rate, and attached to it, we merged the current video art that we use for the Discord community call of this week. So basically, this video is earning fixed yield rate currently right now for a maturity of 30 days. And this feature is permissionless. You can use it right now on mainnet or on Rinkeby. You will find the custom metadata features at the bottom of the deposit model. When you click on the deposit button, you will be able to drop a collapse where you see the different details, the different fields to customize your NFT deposits. So why we are doing that is first to have fun with it, but also we want to invite the artists in residence we have currently, Visual Dawn, Warakami, Man with No Name. They are all cooking collection of NFT right now. The current art you see on this NFT were done by Warakami, for example. We have also Visual Dawn and his team working on some cool stuff for us. So probably beginning of next week, we will start announcing more stuff there. Or we want to proceed with all this work. And the vision with that is mainly to be able to connect with new community and cross-pollinate our community with their community of creative community with Visual Dawn and others, and basically connect with DeFi and the NFT world, creative NFT world, and an NFT can be much more than just just an image. So we want to prove that. We were already doing that back in December with Man with No Name. We did 8 pieces that we merged with a deposit. So 8 deposits with a nice art created by Man with No Name, and we put that on auction on OpenSea and Rarible, and we raised some funds for charity at the end of the year 2020. So there is like a lot of use cases that you can imagine with that. And making the transition between what we are experimenting with this metadata for NFT. There is the upcoming deployment on Polygon for 88MPH. And there we have a few friends, mainly Comif. They are doing a space game with spaceships, with Comif, with planets. So it's all based on NFT in-game assets represented by some NFT. And the goal going there on Polygon, of course, is to do our main business. So basically being able to offer fixed deal rights for you guys and interacting cheaply with 88MPH. But also it's starting exploring new use cases and also in-game assets where we can offer a fixed deal right for those in-game assets. So we'll start exploring the space there, and it's really exciting because it's definitely a venue since the inception of 88MPH that we wanted to explore with NFT. Because mixing DeFi and NFT is really mind-blowing. So there is much more, but it's that thing will happen. So Polygon, discussing with the team internally, we are currently finishing all we can automate a lot of the work behind the scene in terms of automating deployment on new chains. And after being really quick for each new chain we want to add, making it a smooth process. So right now we are preparing the framework for going multi-chain and layer 2. So starting with Polygon. So end of next week, stay tuned to hear from us and see where we are at with that project. And we will start also doing partnership on Polygon. After probably it will be Phantom, and we will follow up with all the chains where we can deploy. Basically, we will be on all the chains. We will copy the strategy of SushiSwap regarding that. They are basically operating everywhere. They are extracting revenue from all this different ecosystem, and distribute the revenue on Ethereum mainnet. So we will do the same thing regarding those deployments. The thing that it's important to notice is we won't reward deposits with MPH at the beginning on the multi-chain ecosystem where we will deploy. It will be a retroactive rewards probably with a staking contract deployed on Polygon, deployed on Phantom, where you will stake your deposit. NFT, and you will be able to extract some MPH reward from that. So it will be a bit a different system than what we have on mainnet, where we mint new MPH according to when a deposit occurs. On Polygon, we'll need to do things differently, and on other chains the same. So we will also have like probably retroactive rewards paid in the native token, the native assets of the chain where we deploy. All of that is being prepared internally, so stay tuned for that. And just to go back to the Ethereum mainnet deployment, we really wanted to have a smooth launch, so nothing big, nothing fancy, just making sure nothing horribly wrong happens. So currently, so far so good. We just crossed 1 million deposits on V3, so the total TVL is currently roughly $24 million, counting V2. And as we were like announcing a lot of different time before, like the V3 is the main foundation basis we were waiting before pushing third-party protocol to deploy TVL on top of 88 MPH. So that thing is currently moving quickly. So yeah, hopefully we will be able to onboard a shit ton of TVL there and generating revenue for everyone. So that's the main goal. And we will also make new proposal to see how we can manage better, smarter the revenue. Currently, we distribute 100% of revenue, but we will discuss with you also how we can be more preparing more what we need in the long term in terms of liquidity management. We were discussing that with Visor today. There was this good reason why we invited Visor today, because we want to prepare also the community to this liquidity, smart liquidity asset management, because we think owning our own liquidity token as a protocol is fairly important for the future. So we want to make everyone align behind that idea. And also there is questions related to meta governance, but probably that will be for another call. So yeah, regarding 88 MPH V3s, I will try today to mint a deposit where we will attach directly the community call records, just to start making fun use cases of that and tweeting about that. And next week we will start dropping some cool NFT done by our artists in residence with intrinsic value. That's mainly that's also one of the benefits of doing DeFi NFTs. When you create a piece as an artist, there is no real intrinsic value to your creation. So if you add, let's say, 100 DAI to your NFT, where you merge your creation with that DeFi NFT, there is already an intrinsic value, creating a price floor directly for your NFT. And yeah, there is some artists interested by that. We'll try to explore that. And last thing regarding V3, it's next week we will deploy all the assets supported by Compound and Aave, and some new one for the Harvest. So yeah, we will be able to start onboarding more TVL with that move. Because yeah, the current, like if we take the example of what happened with V2, our main pools were probably all on Harvest. So right now on Harvest we just have one pool. So we'll try to make things move, and also for Compound and Aave, we will do co-marketing also with the assets we are deploying to announce all of that. So bringing more audience and more awareness regarding all of that. So yeah, that will happen next week. Everything is ready. It's just we need to deploy the pool, so it will take a bit of time to do that, but probably in a day it will be done. And Steven, maybe you want to rediscuss with everyone that we have this creative content contest?
Yeah, so just a reminder to everyone, we are currently doing the 88 MPH B3 creative contest. I will really quickly post in the general chat the Medium link for that. There's a little bit over $8,500 worth of rewards. Something that Josh set up that I really liked is the first place is 1,500, and from there it decreases all the way to place 50. So we're going to be sending some form of rewards to 50 different people who participate. Currently, the participation is a little lower than expected compared to our last contest, but I think we just need to push that out a little bit more. So I'm going to get this tweet in the general chat. Anything from, if you want to make it a meme, you want to make it educational, showing how to use V3. It can be as simple as, here's how you connect your MetaMask, here's how you get an asset over there, here's what you can do with staking. Just pretty much the floor is open for what you're able to do. But yeah, don't be afraid to put anything. There's no barrier to entry there. Let me get that in the chat for you.
Yeah, and it's the focus we wanted with that contest is mainly about educational content regarding DeFi, what you can do with a fixed yield rate, also analysis of the ecosystem, the current vertical we can have regarding fixed yield rate protocol offering different way of doing what we are currently doing at 88 MPH. I think there is different protocol doing that, and a good example of those kind of content pieces are really well illustrated with what Hartman Capital did a few days ago. You will see there, and probably it will help you also understand what we are looking for in terms of content and where 88 MPH stands in the ecosystem, in the DeFi ecosystem regarding fixed yield rate. Check that post. I just shared the link on general. These kind of things, or also the video explainers that you have on our YouTube channel. These kind of things is really highly needed for V3. You can do it in whatever language you want. It could be English, it could be Italian, Chinese, whatever you want. Just making sure that it makes sense to, and the information are accurate. So yeah, feel free to post all of that.
And just to remind everyone, if you click on that tweet that I put in the general chat and you click the hashtag 88MPHV3 contest, you'll be able to view all the submissions. And that's actually how we're going to be taking your submissions and then judging them. And we're going to have a panel of some exciting people that I'm excited to see how they judge. We're going to bring them all the entries and they're going to vote their top 50. And yeah, click that hashtag, get some inspiration. It doesn't have to be Twitter content. You can make it YouTube, TikTok, whatever you want, so long as you tweet about it with that hashtag.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for that. We are going to make our way to the last segment of the call, which is our raffle giveaway. So I invite everyone listening in the audience to head over to the general chat, where we will ask you to put in a number between 1 and 60, only once. If you put in a number more than once, you're automatically disqualified. And if you hit the number or get closest to, you will win today's raffle of $100 worth of 1 MPH token. So Steven, if you can give me a hand just scanning the chat so we can award our winner, that would be amazing. While we're doing that and we're waiting for everyone to submit their numbers, I want to thank everyone for coming out. Today's call was amazing and exciting and awesome and very informative as usual. We invite everyone to stay up to date with everything that's happening here at 88 MPH, whether it's in Discord, Telegram, or Twitter. Please stay tuned, and we hope that you guys will join us next week as well. I'm going to pause here for a quick sec and just scan the general chat.
Okay, good. I was going to say El President of Smart Money accidentally used a number someone else used. Cool, yeah, everyone just go ahead, put a number in the chat. Make sure you scroll up if you're going to put a number and check that it hasn't been placed yet, just so we don't have to pick from 2 people. 1 through 60. I'll wait a little bit longer to see if anyone hits it.
Me too.
And by the way, Whipper, while we wait for the number, I think Josh will cook POAP. So. Yep.
Great. Okay, so it just came to our attention that we will be minting POAPs today. So anyone that's actually reacted in the general chat since the start of the call will also get a POAP minted. But you'll just have to give us a little bit of time with that because Josh is not with us right now, but as soon as he gets around to it. Okay, looks like we're going to be closing off the raffle.
There's 50. We have 53 listeners and only about 25 entries. So, free $100, guys. Just put a number real quick if you want. We're going to close it off in just a second.
Steven, we'll close in about 20 seconds.
Okay. I know someone who's the closest already.
Yeah, me too. I see it.
All right, this is closed. Let's see. The winner today was Castor Magic. The number was 27. You were 28.
Congratulations. All right, everyone, we're going to bring this call to a close. Thank you once again. We hope you have a wonderful day. Castor Magic, I'll be in touch with you in the general to send you your prize. Thanks for coming out, and we will see you guys on the next one.
Thanks, Whipper. Have a good one,
right,
everyone.
Great. This will also be posted on YouTube for anybody that wants to watch it. I'll try and get that up in the next couple hours.
Awesome.
All right, bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye, guys.